Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so excited we're spending this time today. We've got quite a show lined up. Our first guest is none other than Sherri Nichols. She's a women's empowerment coach and sparkling mojo specialist who is highly trained in helping women balance their masculine and feminine energies, as well as overcoming negative patterns that keep them stuck. So Sherri's here today to talk to us about sexy and sparkling after 40, 7 steps to revitalize your radiance and create romantic adventure in your life. So let's welcome to the show, Sherri.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It's just an honor and a pleasure to be here. Have some fun with you today.
Well, without a doubt, I mean, you're the expert in relationships and kind of bouncing back and how women get their sparkle back after 40. And so I had to talk to you in regards to not only your book, but your whole, the messaging that you have around this topic, I think we can't get enough of,
Well, absolutely. I think that most women, in my experience, I've been coaching and working with women now for over a decade. And my own personal experience is that I think women in general, especially once they hit 40, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is not the life I thought I was going to be leading. What happened? They kind of lose themselves, whether it be through being a mom or, working or being in a relationship where they've just really kind of adapted and pretzeled into what they think, others want. But we reach a point where we, kind of take a look at ourselves and think, wow, this is just not what I thought I was going to have. And that's basically what happened to me after a really devastating divorce. And that is really what led my journey to be where I am today, is taking on some roles and personas in my life and in my relationship that were out of integrity with who I really am. And then noticing after I, went through my journey and did a lot of reflection and work to get back to who I am, really meeting so many women who were feeling the same way. So I made it my passion to help others really understand their value and their worth. And as you said, it's an area that can't be talked about enough, because what I found is that so many women just don't understand how valuable they are and how worthy they are. So that's why I created this, for me, comparing them to a diamond, because I believe that women are diamonds. That's at the center of who they are, and it's there. It doesn't go anywhere. It just gets covered up. And so it's just, I have a lot of fun helping them kind of dust it off and get it shining again and sparkling.
Well, and the thing that I really appreciated about your like the message that you bring and the different insights that you bring is because you've been there, you've gone through it, and you've come out the other side. And a lot of times, if I know sometimes when people are dealing with maybe psychologists who have studied the topic, but aren't, really don't have that firsthand experience in some ways, it really makes a big difference, in regards to how you can lead someone through that kind of pain.
I think you bring up a good point, and it is really not easy to really understand what somebody else is going through unless you've been through it yourself. It's very helpful. And, I tell people it's not something that I wish on anybody, but what I learned through it, I wish on everybody, or I wish for everybody. And, that saying, your mess is your message.
Well, I must have quite a message then.
It's like you have to embrace it and laugh, right? Because it's the way to, that is what actually becomes your purpose in life. At least it was for me. And it was one that I had no awareness of until I actually went through it. And yes, because I think that for most people, what I found, is that Yeah, it was devastating. It was one of the darkest nights of my soul, but it also brought me the greatest gift, and that is to be doing something that I absolutely love. And sometimes that's what it takes. I mean, that's how we grow, is going through these turbulent times that really, if you just have the commitment and persistence, this is where I say the value, knowing your value is so important, because I know it can be easy to give up. But it's really about understanding that every woman, every one of you beautiful ladies listening, and men too, we all are. I just, focus on the women because that's primarily who I work with. But everybody is this beautiful diamond essence. And if you just remember that and work towards that, to clear out whatever cobwebs you have and past, patterns that don't serve you, then you can really get it shining again. Because I think, Marianne, what I've discovered too is that there are two really deep fears that people have. And one is that you're not enough. And I think this is really common for everybody, but especially for women. I hear it a lot over and over again. And maybe that's just because I talk to women more. Not enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough. They think they gave and then it didn't work out. So there must be fundamentally flawed, or somehow they're just not enough. And when you feel like you're not enough, then that really touches a deeper core need of being loved. And then this fear sprouts out. Well, if I'm not enough, then who's going to love me? Or I'm not lovable. And so, we get into these behaviors that actually end up a self-fulfilling prophecy of that, so it's really kind of rewiring your beliefs and understanding that you are enough and that you are lovable just the way you are, which, of course, is the bigger message in all of this is around love, love.
Well, and I think in your own personal story, you touched on something that I'm very familiar with. And it's often when us as women, we're in the workplace, we feel that we have to wear more of a masculine face in order to be successful. And then what ends up happening is women tend to lose part of their femininity because they tend to work so much in the masculine, and that impacts their marriage and their relationships going forward. And part of your, how you're just saying, like, you're enough, it's, you don't have to be overly masculine going into a work situation. You can just, be who you are, and it's 100% fine and okay.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you are so right on, Marianne. I'm telling you. And I think it's almost epidemic in the United States, because I've talked to women in other cultures, and I think it's because, we went through the 60s of really, the feminism and what does it look like to have equal rights, and really the only role models were in the masculine, men, right? And that was our version of, okay, if that's what success looks like, then I'm going to emulate that, and so I think it's kind of like anything. The pendulum, when you want to change, the pendulum swings way over to the other side, and then it's starting to come back. I mean, I'm really happy there's a lot of people out there who are talking about the feminine essence and being steeped in that and how powerful that is and being authentic to that. And so that is a big issue. And absolutely, it was a huge issue in my marriage. I was very much, I call it, I was in my man boots, and I tell people.
I get that. I've done that.
And, it's like, okay, and women are so competent, right, Marianne? We are so capable. And so, that kind of figures in that as well. It's like, okay. But a lot of it has to do with how we source our importance. And I think for many of us growing up, if we grew up with parents also, outside of that role of being, growing up and looking at what is successful, what is powerful, and kind of going into, you have to be in your masculine to really, be successful. That's one big aspect of it. The other is what I've discovered in working with women is how you were raised, how you received your value. If you grew up in a family where your father praised you for your being smart, for your accomplishments, for, really working hard, then you would tend to, you wanted to keep getting that praise, and that's your source of love. So you would go more and more into that and want to accomplish more and more and take on more and more. And eventually as you get older, that's just overwhelming and it's exhausting. And so that's how we get out of balance and you lose touch with that feminine. So what I learned and what I share with people, the number one thing you can do is, you don't want to get rid of your masculine, because it's the masculine that carries the creative thoughts and out into the world and does make it happen. But you want to dance with that feminine and you want to balance it. And so I tell women, flip to your feminine, especially in a relationship, because that's, man wants to feel like a man, and it's often hard. I know myself. Oh boy, I was biting my tongue left and right, and I still do, to be quite honest.
Well, Tina, it's interesting because when we get into, for me, I think with the whole work dynamics, I think a lot of it is because it was such a male-dominated, thing back in the day. And so when women came in, they had to appear more male in order just to fit in, you know. And so now we look at that. It's like, no, we don't really have to do that because, there's so much that women bring to business when they stay in their feminine power. And so that kind of brings me to my next question for you. It's like, women end up blocking their bliss in relationships, just in relationships in general. What are some of the ways they do that, and how can they change that?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question. And really, it stems from what we were just talking about, being in more of your masculine energy, because when you're in a relationship, it's really important that the feminine and the masculine energy are present. And so if I always say, like I was very masculine in my marriage, and I always say, 2 men in a heterosexual relationship, it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And so, you block your bliss by trying to do everything, trying to take over, trying to, be in control and all of that. And so one of the ways that you can bring more bliss into your relationship is literally by stepping back, being in your feminine essence. And for those of you who, I think the other thing is women want to get it perfect. They want to do it right. And here's the thing. Femininity is unique to each individual, to each woman. Yeah. And it's about figuring out what that is for you. And it's really about connecting with your authentic essence. And that means, being in a flow with who you are and not trying to make things happen. Those are masculine energies. But so we block our bliss by not embracing our feminine essence and bringing more joy into our lives. And that's another way that you step into your feminine energy. There's so many easy ways to do that, Marianne. Oh my gosh, just taking a walk in nature. It's so easy, but it's energy. Nature is naturally balanced. And so if you take a walk in nature, you will find yourself de-stressing, just, and not be on the phone while you're taking a walk or texting or, anything that is, outside of yourself, or you want to take that time for you and connect, and you will allow your energies then to come back into balance, and so that you feel better. And, doing things that you like. Dancing is a great way to reconnect with your bliss. You're moving your hips, that whole area in your hip area, your female heart center, I call it, really. We tend to, as women, when we're in our masculine, we are operating from the neck up. We disconnect from our bodies. And when you're only in your head, you're not connected to your essence. You're just this talking head. So to get into your body and into your bliss, you want to drop down into your body. And dance is a great way to do that. Listening to music, dancing. And these are things that are so easy. You can do at your home, right? You can turn on some music. You can dance in your kitchen. You can, or take a dance class. I just did a retreat, and I have several of the women, I brought in a belly dancer, and oh my gosh, 4 of them have already found belly dance instructors in their area, because that was the biggest highlight for them, was getting into their body.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so important, is having that connection and feeling so connected as a woman, just to who it is that you are, because that's one of the many things I love, not only about your book, but your entire messaging, is looking at women and just individuals as diamonds, because every single person is a jewel within their own right. And it's just polishing each side and showing the world who it is that they are, you know?
Oh, beautifully said. And I just to dovetail on that, the diamond came to me in a meditation. It was given to me that is at the core of every person. And when you think about a diamond, it's brilliant, it's strong, every single hardship that, for a diamond to be formed, it has to go through intense stress and pressure and heat. And then this beautiful diamond emerges, these beautiful cuts. And it's the same for a woman. Every stress we go through, every challenge, every hardship, you are creating another facet to your diamond that's making you even more valuable, that's making you more beautiful. And there is no two diamonds that are alike. Every diamond is different. And there are different colors of diamonds, different, so many different attributes. And so if you can just hold that you are a diamond and really, really grasp the value of who you are and live in that every day, that will really help you. And be grateful, acknowledge yourself, and love your, make that bliss list. I always tell women to make a list of at least 10 things that you love about yourself. And read it every day to remind yourself. I don't think women can acknowledge themselves enough.
I think that's a fabulous way of really appreciating the gifts that a person brings, because it's so easy to, and this is actually one of the parts that you talked about in your book, was the importance of sisterhood versus comparing ourselves to other women, and why we would want to develop and cultivate a fellowship of sisterhood.
Mm-hmm. So important. I'm so glad you brought that up. It is, women are collaborative, and there are, when we understand that comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's Roosevelt said that. Mm-hmm. And it is so true. If you understand that each of you have your own uniqueness, and if you are in collaboration with other women, that support is so strong. I know in my group program, the women are amazed at how much support they receive, and then they love to give it as well. And it's part of connection. Every person that I have ever talked to wants a deeply connected, loving relationship. Well, it starts with yourself, and then it starts with reaching out to others. And when you know that you have that sisterhood of support and love, you're not alone. And that is a huge factor in really, really allowing yourself to live more fully, to live with more joy, and to relax. It can be scary if you think you're alone. And it's just not true. Women are, supportive. But I think that's that masculine energy that comes in, the competition. And I was going to just relay one quick thing, if I may. I had a client who is a manager of a large company, and she always did everything herself. And we went through some work together, and she just relayed to me that she now delegates to her team, and she gets more done. The team is happier, and she is not. She's actually performing better since she delegated. So the feminine essence that you can bring into your work around collaboration, is highly valuable, taking out the competitiveness in your workplace as well as in your social life, just really being there, and it's, as I said, it's all about love of self, love of others, and being a contribution to the planet in that sense as well.
Well, and then, women then are more in the mindset, and I know you bring this up in your book as well, Sexy and Sparkling After 40, that, we're moving more from listening to that outer critic and really moving more for that inner validation, And that's what a great place to be in when we don't have to be in competition with other people or care about what they think.
Well, right, because the truth is that there's this quote, and I'm really butchering it, but it's basically, I'm going to be me because I can't be anybody else, right? I mean, you basically when you abandon yourself, you're just doing yourself a disservice. You're always going to be on a roller coaster. But if you can really get grounded in who you are and know that your value and know what you bring and really love you, warts and all, and that's the best part of it. And friends, they just make life so much more fun. And they'll set you straight when you're going down the wrong path. They'll set you straight.
Yeah.
When you're talking so terribly to yourself, they'll be there to support you and love you and remind you. And it just makes life so much more enjoyable.
Well, it's easier to get kind of thrown into the woods, when you don't have that kind of feedback of women who are saying, well, hey, no, you're the most valuable and wonderful person I've ever known, in case they get into a relationship that might be just kind of tearing them down,
Exactly, because for some reason women always seem to think they're doing something wrong. It's my fault. I'm doing this wrong. And I would say that, it always takes two to tango, but I think that women often misinterpret, what they think they're doing wrong. I think that a lot of times it's just that we're not setting proper boundaries in relationships. Yeah. So what we might be doing wrong is that we're not standing up for ourselves, or we're not honoring ourselves and setting these boundaries. And so we let others cross those boundaries, and we believe everything that they say. And that's where having a good sense of self and knowing your value really is so important. And
and I would agree with you. I think a lot of times when us as women, we get into relationships, we might think, oh man, he is like the cat's meow, or this person's just this most amazing person, without really investigating, do we have the same goals and values, and really determining whether or not that is more of a relationship that has more of a foundation than he looks hot.
Right. Well, right. I mean, and that's kind of fleeting as well. We can get starry-eyed, but the reality is that eventually fades. And then what are you left with? And you want to be careful. I always say you want to be cautious of pretzeling yourself into what you think somebody else wants. And just know that I think that's where we get caught up in lost, is when we are really looking to become what we think other people want. And that, that could be in relationship. It can be as an employee. It can be even an entrepreneur, trying to please everybody with what you're doing. It can be with as a child, a sibling, a parent, whatever. When you are really grounded in who you are, whatever you desire in life will come more easily and naturally to you. And I don't know how much time we have, but do I have time for a quick story?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Oh good. So I remember, Marianne, I used to do a radio show myself, and one morning I was thinking, what would be a great message to give to the ladies today. And I started out on this walk. It was a beautiful summer morning, and I came across this most magnificent myrtle tree. Are you familiar with the myrtle trees?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this one was gorgeous pink, really like all colors of pale pink leaves, and it was, these beautiful curvaceous limbs. And I just sat there and stared at it, and I thought, wow, this is like the embodiment of like a feminine essence. Everything about it was very like, seriously.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
The limbs were curvaceous, and there was a little bit of a breeze, and so the pink petals were kind of fluttering. They were almost like they were flirting. I mean, it was just really beautiful, and I admired it. And then I I continued my walk, but I could not stop thinking about that tree. And I changed the course of my walk, and I like ran back so that I could be in the presence of that tree. And it was, as I stood before it, my heart swelled up to the point of just this amazing understanding and connection of this feminine energy. This is, of course, a part of nature. So it was, God was really, to me, speaking through this tree of the connection to this beauty that to me is the feminine definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just standing there in all its glory, wasn't running after me. It wasn't pretzeling. It wasn't doing anything. It was just standing there in all its glory. And it was so powerful that it brought me back to be in front of it. So I think it was a great understanding and message. And I just stood there and I just wept because it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And in that moment, I just became like one with that beautiful essence and energy, and understanding that we are, each of us, so beautiful. And when we try to be something other than what we are, it's a constant conflictive energy inside. And when we just accept, acknowledge, and love our authentic essence, that is more powerful than thinking that if I just act like a man, I can get more accomplished, or get people to see things my way. Mm-hmm. It's so empowering to know this, that, you don't have to people please. You don't have to become something you're not. You don't have to, just being who you are is so valuable. And that's your birthright. So.
Well, and you're so on track with all this, and I just have to applaud you for all the people and the women that you're helping along their journey. I mean, because it's when we get in our stuff, it's really hard sometimes to see beyond the heartache and the disappointment and the hurt to come out on the other side. And you really have blazed a trail for women in order for them to do that. Now, before we let you go, first, everyone should pick up their own copy of Sexy and Sparkling After 40. But I hear that you have a special giveaway for our listeners.
I do, Marianne. Thank you. Yes, it's anybody who would love to have more love and happiness in your life. This is an ebook that is going to give you the 4 steps to increase love and happiness in your life, and it's a step-by-step, walk you through, really help you to connect with that you desire, and help you to manifest it in your life. And it's easy, and it's quick, and it's fun. And you can find that at unleashyoursparkle.com/gift. And it is, I've had many people utilize this tool and manifest much, much wonderful, happy surprises and love and good things in their life. So I just encourage you to do that for yourself. Give yourself that gift.
Gosh, and what website can they go just to connect with you personally if they want to be part of your community and learn more about what you do? Because I know you've always got these blogs going and and all this wonderful information out there for people to follow.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. I appreciate that. You can go to sexyandsparkling.com, mm-hmm. and the "and" is spelled out. And you will, that's a site that has all of my, lots of free information. As you said, I've got postings every week, articles with empowerment tools and strategies and information, and lots of good stuff on it, more free gifts and things. So, yeah, you can definitely connect with me there.
Oh, well, Sherri, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today.
Thank you, Marianne. I really, really loved being with you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been great to be with everyone.
Oh, we're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. Our next guest is here today to talk to us about her best-selling book, A Beautiful, Terrible Thing, a memoir of marriage and betrayal. So let's welcome to the show, Jen Waite.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here, Jen. Oh, my goodness. So I got a hold of this book, and I could not put it down as soon as I started reading it. And so it's really easy for me to see why it hit like the bestseller list even before your book came out.
That's incredible. I'm just hearing about that today, so that's just absolutely mind-blowing. But I have been getting that feedback, whether people love it or hate it. It seems like a book that is very compulsively read. So people have been kind of messaging me and saying, I read it in one sitting, or I stayed up till 3 a.m. So that's definitely, that's amazing to hear from people.
Well, it's very well written. It's captivating. It grabs your attention. And I shared with you a little bit before we got started here today, a long time ago, way back, way back, I dated somebody who was a sociopath. And so it was enlightening to read just how you have chronicled this, and I could see so many parallels. And I think there are a lot of women out there that are going to read your book if they're in relationships like that and go, gosh, that's me, but you know what? There's a way out, so there's
absolutely
some hope,
I think, and I think that it's a lot more common than people think. And so many women and some men have been involved with sociopaths or narcissists or, someone just on the spectrum. And it's just a lot more common than people realize. Not all sociopaths, psychopaths are serial killers. A lot of them are just very charming, seemingly normal people kind of walking around. And so it happens all the time, and people don't really talk about it. So I'm hoping that, my book will open up this dialogue.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, not all psychopaths or sociopaths are in jail, so it's
Exactly. Yes, I read that a majority of serial killers are psychopaths. However, they don't actually know how many people just walking around also fall on the spectrum. And the kind of, consensus in the psychiatric community is that it's 1 in 25, but I've also read that could be a very conservative estimate. So, your odds are actually good because it's 1 in 25. So, 24 to 25 hopefully are not on the spectrum, but that's still quite a few people walking around out there that you need to be aware of.
Well, and I think more information is always good. I mean, when we walk into relationships, it kind of maybe taking time, learning a little bit more about the person. And even though when we do as much as we can, things can still happen. So I know your book, A Beautiful, Terrible Thing, is the memoir of your marriage and the betrayal. When you were going through all of that, what were some of the red flags that just had your gut going, gosh, something's not right here?
Well, first of all, at the very beginning of the relationship, there were red flags that I chose to ignore, and I'm really open about that in the book. I'm not portraying myself as this, innocent victim or martyr or something like that. Like, I definitely had some insecurities and vulnerabilities. So at the beginning, there was just an intense connection and crazy, kind of this crazy love that I felt right away. And love bombing is kind of a tactic that sociopaths and narcissists use at the very beginning of a relationship. And so there was a lot of that. And I just remember feeling just so in love and adored, and so very positive on the one hand, but then also just always slightly sick to my stomach. And that's still something that I remember so clearly, but just thinking, well, I'm in love, and that's why I feel a little bit sick to my stomach, or like something's a little bit off. And I just ignored it and kind of forced through it. So definitely at the beginning, there were some red flags that I ignored. And then at the end as well, oops, sorry, my alarm just went off. At the end as well, or I guess I should say when the discard happened, which to me was just completely out of nowhere. It was the same feeling of just, I felt slightly sick to my stomach all the time and was trying to believe these excuses and lies, and just felt like something was off. And there was a lot of what is called gaslighting that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, where he would say, you're crazy, it's all in your head, you're hormonal, you just had a baby, so it's hormones, and I'm actually the victim, and I actually have all this stress, and I'm being overworked, and how can you, say that I'm doing these things when I'm actually the one who needs help or care or whatever. So, there were definitely red flags in the beginning, and then at the end, it kind of came full circle. It was kind of the end felt similar in a way to the beginning, just like 1,000 times more intense.
Yeah. And I think, from your description in the books, I mean, your book was just, again, it just was captivating. And when you talk about these gaslighting techniques that were used, different techniques that were used during your book, I mean, they all seem like they could be plausible excuses at the moment. Like, oh, well,
exactly.
Maybe I am hormonal. And then the whole intention is to deflect and make the other person feel like they're either going crazy or it's all their fault or what's wrong with you, when you're really kind of not listening to how you're kind of saying you had that kind of that gut feeling that gosh, I feel a little sick to my stomach,
Right. And I think that a lot of people don't know or won't know that I was kind of writing in real time the memoir. It was probably anywhere from 3 to 6 months out from the events as I was writing. And so I was able to really remember everything that had happened, and, so many details that had gone down. And I think I hope that will be helpful, because I think that in these relationships, when you try to explain to someone a couple years later what happened, it just you can't even, it's very hard to describe the gaslighting techniques. You kind of end up sounding insane. So I was actually able to, just write it out really, really close to as it was happening. So I think that, this might be a really helpful account for also women who have been through something like this, to kind of sit back and say, okay, I'm not the only one who this happened to.
Yeah. And reading this, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, wow, sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
So
similar techniques are used, I think, across the board. And I've gotten, since like the story has started to go out more and more, or be put out there more and more, I've started to get messages from other women who say that my story sounds so eerily similar to theirs. So it definitely seems like, whether it's instinctive or learned or whatever type of behavior it is, it seems like those people on the spectrum are using the same techniques over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and so we're not going to give away your whole story in your book. We do want people to go pick up A Beautiful, Terrible Thing. But during this, you talk about how your husband was really living a dual life, actually, during that time. And just how in discovering that, there was this really kind of back and forth with what you had discovered and known was the truth, and at the same time, the spin he was trying to put on all these stories.
Yes, there was a long period of time, and in the book, it probably seems more condensed because it's, a 300-page book, but there were months and months when I was discovering all of these things, these, really cold, hard facts, like catching him in the act, or seeing emails, or seeing phone records, or, really having facts about infidelities and lies and betrayals and this whole other secret life. And then at the same time, it really took me months to be able to get my head and my heart on the same page. And it was a huge struggle to face the reality of the situation, because it basically did mean accepting that the entire relationship, really from the beginning, was a complete lie. And that took many months to accept and to really face. But once I did, it was really the most empowering moment to realize, okay, this, was a fiction from the beginning, and this is why it happened, not only because of who my ex-husband was, but because of these insecurities in myself. That was, to me, the most important part of putting the whole puzzle together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and top of all this, during this time, you're a new mother too.
Yes, I know. And I've thought about that, and I've thought about, I do wonder how much, sleep deprivation played into the whole, I just literally felt like in a fog for so many months, because it really did happen. The discovery, the big discovery, I guess, really did happen pretty much when she was 0. Like I had really just given birth. So I do wonder now, because everything really seems like such a fog and just so blurry and crazy and heightened, and I don't want to say, oh, it was sleep deprivation or it was all hormones, but I do think that that played a part in, I guess, my state of mind. And I also think that it was definitely on purpose, that kind of taking off the mask right when I was just completely physically and mentally just completely vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, and because for most new mothers, they're considering, gosh, okay, I have this beautiful daughter, and what am I going to do? I'm at this point, I guess I could go and stay with family, but what am I going to do?
It was terrifying for me to kind of project that future and think, I'm going to be a single mom. And now saying this, now that my daughter is 2, I will just say to anyone listening who might be in a similar situation, I am so happy. And we have just such a satisfying, simple, peaceful, happy life. But yeah, at the time, I was absolutely terrified of being a single parent. I wasn't one of those people or women who gives birth and all of a sudden has these maternal instincts and knows exactly what to do. I didn't feel like it really came that naturally to me. So, and then on top of that, I'm finding out, okay, I'm doing this all by myself. So it was absolutely terrifying. But now that it has been, there's been some time, and I have learned so much, and as cheesy as it is to say, I am so much stronger now, and I don't think I would do anything different, because the life that I have with my daughter now is just amazing.
And coming on the back end of that and being able to really kind of be a messenger for women who maybe are in a situation like this, and maybe trying to figure out what's going on or looking to get out. Your story does offer a lot of hope. Even though there are parts of it, that made my hair on my arms stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good description.
Well, and that must have been kind of, just writing this must have been just this cathartic experience, being able to get it all out,
It really was. I think that just getting it out of my body was really healing. I would sit down when my daughter was napping or after she had gone to bed and just furiously write. And that, this is my first book. That had never happened to me before. I love to write my whole life. And in college I took creative writing courses, but I never thought that I had a whole book in me. And I really felt that every single sentence was just in my head already, and I just would sit down and just write furiously until I would hear her screams or whatever, getting up from her nap, or but yeah, just moving it out of my body. That alone was a catharsis, and whatever you have to do to get it out, and some people do it through writing, and I think some people go running, or but definitely I think it's important to not repress and hold things in, because I think that that's when the real damage can start.
Yeah. Well, and so I know there's one point in your story that just made my skin crawl, and it's when your ex was talking about murdering one of his ex-lovers because he thought maybe you had found out. What was going through your mind at the time that he's texting this to you and telling you this is what he's going to do?
There were several messages like that, and we were really careful with what we put in there. There's a lot worse that we decided, we're just gonna play it safe and just put in one. But yeah, I got several really just graphic messages like that. And, it's funny, or I shouldn't say funny, but I think at that point I had been through so much, and my whole world was flipped so much that I don't even think I was really scared. I think I was more just numb at that point and just kind of shocked. And I had also read so much about psychopathy at that point that I was almost looking at it clinically. I was okay, so this fits with, with the diagnosis and this and this. I was really almost looking at it more from a clinical standpoint than feeling scared or heartbroken or, whatnot. But there were a few moments like that really cemented my belief that what I was dealing with was not just, a flawed jerk who cheated or, fell out of love. There were moments like that, and a lot of them are not in the book because we just decided just to be on the safe side. That really, for me, it was okay, I'm dealing with someone on the spectrum, and this is a personality disorder for sure, because those texts, now reading them, and I sent them to my editor and showed them to my divorce attorney when we were going through the divorce. And it's funny to just other people's reactions, because I just look at it, I don't know, from afar almost, I have a wall up, but my divorce attorney was this is the worst case of domestic abuse I've ever seen. And I was what are you talking about? He never hit me. And she was okay, there's multiple kinds of abuse, and this is the worst that I've ever seen. So yeah, it is interesting. I think I definitely I think I protected myself by putting that wall up and just saying, okay, well, this fits the spectrum. But yeah, there were definitely some really chilling texts that I received, and luckily, have not been acted on.
Well, and it's really, I mean, the thing is when something like that happens, I mean, here you're a mom, you're, trying to just, you don't know what's up from down because you're in the middle of all this chaos, because there's so much that they throw at you, and you're just trying to figure out what the heck is even correct.
Right, exactly. You really don't know what is the truth and what is a lie, and you can pretty much be certain that nothing is the truth, but there are a lot of half-truths that get thrown around to kind of mess with you even further. And so, yeah, it is almost, you just feel completely disoriented and like, what can I mean, he could text the sky is blue and I would be like, okay, what's the motivation behind this? Like, it did seem like for a while there that everything was something to manipulate or gaslight or, some kind of plot.
Cause fear or, trying to make it so that you are feeling insecure. I'm sure the police department would have been very interested in all those texts.
Yes, probably. But I, at that point, was just like, you know what? I want to be as boring as possible and cause as little drama as possible, because that was the only, at least from my side, technique that was working in kind of keeping him at bay, just to be completely boring. And that's a piece of advice that I would recommend. Is to just be the most boring you can possibly be. Don't engage, but engage enough. It's really messed up advice, because I needed to give him a little bit, like dosing out some attention so that he would eventually find someone new. So it is kind of like a dance that you have to play when you're exiting one of these relationships.
Yeah, it really is, because that's one of the things that I've read in regards to psychopaths. If they feel that they've taken you've shed them in any kind of bad light, or they've taken a personal insult or pain, that they will come after you, with all the crazy going on. Yeah,
exactly. So it is, yes, it's a very delicate dance to be as uninteresting as possible. And also, feeding their ego a little bit, which I hate to say, but I did that for a few months. I actually purposefully once in a while would kind of, give him some narcissistic supply, that's what they call it. Like once in a while I would kind of like dose it out, because I was really trying to play this game with him for a little bit until he went completely, luckily for me. And I know that I'm so fortunate, and a lot of women don't have this luck, but he just went completely MIA. So
yeah. And then that, because you do have your daughter to consider as well. So now I know that this has kind of set you on a whole new path. Obviously, we've got this great book, and I mean, I love it. I think this is a phenomenal book, a beautiful, terrible thing. Everyone wants to go out and get their own copy. What's next in store for you? What do you have next on your plate?
I am working and living in Portland, Maine right now, actually working in insurance. And I am also considering getting my master's in counseling to potentially become a therapist. I was kind of going full steam ahead, last year, and really quickly realized that with a 2-year-old and a full-time job and everything going on with the book, I was not able to do that, but that is still something that I am very seriously considering and looking into, and just kind of want to make sure that it's, kind of an informed decision and not just something that I'm doing as a reaction, because I think that a lot of times when you go through a kind of traumatic experience, part of the process of healing is to feel like you can help other people. And, and that's great. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess I'm glad that I put the brakes on a little bit, because I do want to make sure that it's not just a reaction to this event, and it's actually something that I really want to, to devote my life to. So that is,
Yeah.
that is kind of the long-term plan. But for now, I am working and just bought my first house in Maine. So, yeah.
And you're full-time mommy.
Yes, that takes up a lot of time and energy. And she is now 2.5. So it is getting, just to like anyone out there who, like me, maybe struggled a bit with the first year, it is getting easier and easier. I mean, in some ways, like people will say, well, it's harder too because they're a toddler, but I just love like her personality's coming through. She's so funny. Like I just love spending time with her. And that was something that didn't, like I said, it didn't really come naturally to me, the whole like mother to a newborn. I struggled a lot with that and kind of felt like a failure, like that I didn't just have those maternal instincts right away. So, you know, just for anyone in that position, some people don't do great with the newborn years, and some people just, you know, do better with the toddler years. And I don't even want to think about the teenage years, but hopefully I'll do okay with those.
I'm sure you'll do just fine with all that, you know, and it is a journey, and
Yeah.
you know, obviously she's been your main focus through all this is just to bring her through, make sure she's okay and everything's going fine. Now, what is, and I think we have, we've got time here. So what is your main focus in people reading this book? What do you want them to take away?
I think, first and foremost, if I can prevent anyone from entering this type of relationship, if someone reads the book and then recognizes the red flags or the personality traits in someone that they're getting close to or at the beginning of a relationship and you know, says, hold on, this actually doesn't feel right, that like if even one person is protected from that type of relationship, then that's amazing. I also would really hope and love for other women who have been through this experience, other men too. There are some men who have written me with similar experiences, and I hope that it validates their experience and they feel like they're not so alone. And then I also do feel that it's very important because, like I said, it was for me the most empowering part of it was not to say, you know, how am I to blame, because it's not about victim blaming at all, but to say, like, well, what are my insecurities that drew me to this person? You know, why did I feel like I even wanted that type of love or that type of attention? And for me, I realized that I was looking for external validation and, you know, didn't feel like I was just whole on my own. And that's something that has been just, you know, extremely powerful to realize that maybe someday I will have a partner, but right now I'm really happy being on my own and feel really satisfied. And I hope, and there's so much in the media and in especially American culture about, for women, finding the one, like you spend your whole life trying to find the one. And there are definitely some great healthy relationships, but I hope that women will start to feel that they are already, you know, whole without that other half.
Well, and I think that's really valuable information because, I mean, I look back at my part and how I got into a relationship with someone who's a psychopath, and you look at it and you're like, you know, I admit it, I was way too needy. Like I needed to be loved, and I was looking for that white picket fence and, you know, and all that. And
it's so normal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that a lot of women are super ashamed when they exit these relationships because they feel like they were duped and conned and how could I have been so stupid? But, you know, like it's great for someone who has been, who is born with like, and the most self-confidence ever and like knows exactly who they are. But most of us like have insecurities and, you know, like go through those phases. So it is extremely normal and common to, you know, as a young person to have insecurities and vulnerabilities and neediness and all that stuff. So I also hope that that the shame stigma is taken away and people start to talk about this a little bit more.
Well, and I think also reflecting back, like how you've done and how you suggest too, is like kind of reflecting back and looking at just how much a person grows through these kind of experiences. I'm not saying everyone should have one, but it's there are other ways to grow. But I mean,
Yes.
There's a lot to be learned from this if we have the willingness not to really. And gosh, I kind of don't know the best even way to put this. I mean, it's not like we are within a victim place, but it's kind of looking at like, what did we do to contribute that relationship was okay, that we're okay with being with someone that said, oh, because I kind of look back at mine and it was kind of like, gosh, it had a lot of the similarities where there was that double lifestyle.
Totally. Yeah. And it happens to so many people. And, a lot of it is external, just what society tells us since we're little girls, but, a lot of it is internal as well. And so for me, it was just an enormous growing experience, and it was really painful, because a lot of times it is really painful to grow and to change, but it's something that I had to go through. And like you said, I hope that not everyone has to go through, something like this, but I wouldn't change anything, because now I do feel that I can look at the reality of a situation. Like, I still consider myself an optimist, but I used to be almost delusional how much I would see the good in people, and it was harmful. Like, it was actually harmful to me. So that kind of thing is like, okay, I can still be an optimist, happy-go-lucky person, and also see all the data and actually make like smart, informed decisions based on reality, and not this delusion of clinging to what I want to be true that has no basis in reality whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I really applaud you for your courage, not only for writing the book, but really blazing the trail for women who are either in this situation or have been in it, and they're just kind of looking to make sense of it. And you really have provided a lot of hope for women, and I really applaud you for that, Jen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That is really great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was years and years and years ago, but reading your book, it was really comforting, in some ways, because it's like, gosh, I'm not the only person that went through this. There are other people.
That's so. I have a really good friend who is going through something similar, and texted me. I'm sleeping with your book at night, because it's just reminding me that I'm not a complete idiot failure for falling for this type of person. Like, it does happen. So yeah, if I can validate and comfort and give people hope, then that is truly amazing.
So Jen, before we go, because we're just about at the end of our time, which is truly unfortunate, because I've really enjoyed this time with you.
Thank you. I did too.
Where can our listeners connect with you?
I have a website, www.jenwaite, and that's JENWAITE.com. So that is my personal blog, where I've written several articles about my experience and about psychopathy, and kind of identifying the red flags, and just I guess little life experiences that I've had since going through this. And so you can definitely look at my blog and contact me through there.
Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.